What is up, everybody? Back in our video. I just finished up watching that Warriors-Grizzlies final playing game. So the playing tournament is done. Now we have the official playoffs starting up tomorrow. This will be a late video posting just right after that game. What a phenomenal game. I thought that game was a lot better than the Lakers-Warriors game, specifically because it went to overtime and everybody's making shots like crazy late. But we're going to start with the Eastern Conference here on this one, so please leave a like. This video took a lot of time to make, and I'll be breaking down every single series. I'm not going to go extremely in-depth with them, but I'm going to break it down a little bit and why I think the teams will win. So in the East, we're going to start with the 4 versus 5 matchup, Knicks versus Hawks. I think this is the first round series that I'm looking forward to the most. The Hawks finished 9th in offensive rating and 18th in defensive rating. The Knicks finished 22nd in offensive rating and 4th in defensive rating. The Knicks won all 3 of the season matchups against the Hawks also. Both teams finished out their season on 7-3 records in their last 10. Personally, with this series, I'm going to go Knicks in 7. I think their coaching is just absolutely phenomenal. I think the Hawks coaching is also really good, by the way. But I think Randall's going to have a really good series, and I just really think this Knicks team is gritty enough. They're going to come out with a great win at the end. Plus, I mean, you could tell me the Hawks win in 7-2. I wouldn't be too mad with it. I just think the Knicks are more desperate for a playoff win right now. I mean, I'm sure the Hawks are really grinding for one too, but I think the Knicks are going to come in a little bit more desperate, and I think they have some more talented players. Plus, I think their defensive scheme, especially in a slowed down playoff series, is really going to help them out. Next up, we have the Bucks versus the Heat. The Heat took down the Bucks in a pretty big upset last year, 4-1 in the East semis, I believe it was, and then the Heat, ended up making the finals. But the Bucks ranked 5th in offensive rating and 9th in defensive rating. The Heat ranked 18th in offensive rating and 10th in defensive rating. I have the Bucks winning this series in 7 games. They took the season series 2 out of 3. I really just don't know who's going to be able to guard Giannis. I think Bam is a phenomenal defender, but this team just looks a lot more complete, and I think Holiday is just a massive upgrade over Bledsoe. I think this team's going to have a lot more postseason success. Next up, we got the 2 versus 7, the Nets versus the Celtics. The Celtics will be without Jaylen Brown, unfortunately, as he's going to miss the rest of the postseason with his arm injury. Really unfortunate to see him go down while he was having his career year. The Nets are a team that didn't develop too much chemistry during the season because of the injuries they were also dealing with, and I think that's a pretty good argument against them. But the Nets rank number 1 in offensive rating and 22nd in defensive rating, while the Celtics rank number 10 in offensive rating and number 13 in defensive rating. The Nets swept the season series going 3-0 against the Celtics. I'm really looking forward to this KD versus Tatum matchup. Overall, I think the Nets will win in 5. I think this will be a really good 5-game series, just like last year. Nuggets versus Lakers Western Conference Finals, a series where it looks more like a 6 or 7 game series, but it actually is going to end up being a 5-game series. If the Celtics want to win, Kemba's going to have to absolutely play outstanding. I just can't really see that out of him. In the last matchup of the first round in the Eastern Conference, we got the Wizards versus the Sixers. The Wizards are a very hot squad right now as they just moved past the Pacers yesterday. The Sixers ranked number 13 in offensive rating and number 2 in defensive rating, while the Wizards ranked number 17 in offensive rating and number 20 in defensive rating. The Sixers swept the season series 3-0 on the Wizards. Bradley Beal, he's kind of been looking a little iffy off his injury. He doesn't look like his normal self, which is, it's expected, honestly. But Westbrook is just playing at another level. Like, the dude's been an absolute triple-double machine more than ever lately. But I just don't really see how the Wizards are going to be able to handle Embiid whatsoever, who is probably going to be the MVP if he didn't get hurt, and just with how dominant he's been. So in this series, I do have the Sixers going up with the win in 5 games. And now let's go to the Western Conference. We're going to start with the rematch of last year, the Clippers versus the Mavericks. I'm sticking to my belief. If Porzingis wasn't ejected game 1 last year, and if he was healthy throughout that series, I think the Mavericks would have won that series last year against the Clippers. The Clippers ranked number 3 in offensive rating and number 8 in defensive rating, while the Mavericks ranked number 8 in offensive rating and 21 in defensive rating. I have the Clippers winning this series in 6 games. I think Paul George is going to play a lot better, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people with this postseason appearance. I don't think he's going to be playing at like this elite level where he's playing better than Kawhi by any means, but I think he's going to play considerably better than last year, and I think he's going to be a lot more consistent than last year because consistency last year was horrendous for him. And the Mavs, I think I sense some tension in the organization. I mean, it's not the biggest thing why I think they're a lose. I just think this Clippers team is a lot better than them right now, and I think the Clippers shouldn't really be a 4 seed because of their stupid tanking at the end of the season to avoid the Lakers. Next up, we got the 3 versus 6 Nuggets versus Trailblazers. The MVP will take on Dame Time. This is like a really tough. This was the toughest one for me to predict. This one took me a while to think about. The Nuggets rank number 6 in offensive rating and number 11th defensively. The Trailblazers rank number 2 offensively and number 29 defensively. The Nuggets handled the season series, winning 2 out of 1 games. Yeah, this was just a tough series for me to predict. I am going to end up going Nuggets in 7. I still think they can pull it off without Murray. I mean, they've been absolutely fantastic without Murray. I don't have their exact record, but I know they're a hefty amount of games above 500 without him. And Jokic just has the pieces around him to be, very successful in the playoffs. Next up for the 7-2 matchup, it's going to be the Lakers versus the Suns. This is going to be a very weird series. It just sucks for the Suns, though. They worked their butts off for a top seed. Now they got to play like the best 7 seed of all time, potentially, in the Lakers with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. The Suns rank number 7 in offensive rating and number 6 in defensive rating, while the Lakers rank number 24 in offensive rating and number 1 in defensive rating. This was a pretty tough call for me. I am going to end up going Lakers in 7. I just can't fathom the idea of LeBron losing round 1 yet. I believe he is either 15-0 or 14-0, somewhere around that range in the first round, even with his injuries. I think the Suns will take on the games early in the series. I could even see them taking a 2-0 lead early on, but I think LeBron James and the Lakers catch back up. And I think Davis just has a massive mismatch on Aiden in the paint. We'll see how that goes, but I'm looking for a really good series. I think Booker and CP3 will play really good. I'm just not too sold on the talent around them, while I'm really sold on the Lakers' talent around Anthony Davis and LeBron James. And now we got that 1 versus 8, Jazz versus Grizzlies. Big props to the Grizzlies for just being the Warriors. What a phenomenal game they just played, especially John Morant. Big props to that guy. But the Jazz rank number 4 in offensive rating and number 3 in defensive rating, while the Grizzlies rank number 15 in offensive rating and number 7 in defensive rating. I got the Jazz in 5 in this series. Mitchell is probably playing game 1. I think he'll be, a little less effective in the first few games because of that injury he's coming off of. And the depth behind is absolutely insane. 2 6th Man of the Year candidates for this Jazz team and the Defensive Player of the Year, in my opinion, Rudy Gobert. I think he will also win that award. Like, this team is just stacked with phenomenal role players, and I think they're going to fare really well in this series, especially against this Grizzlies team, who also has a really dominant big man, in my opinion, Valanciunas. But I just think the Grizzlies just can't handle this full put-together power of the Jazz, and I think their defense and offense will outweigh them at the end of the day. Now we're moving on to the second round. We got the Sixers versus Knicks. 2 top 5 defensive teams will battle it out. I think this will be a very, very slow-paced series. Basically just means low-scoring games. I think the Knicks match up a lot better than the Wizards do because you actually have a guy who can protect the rim a lot better than, like Alex Len and Robin Lopez. Like, I think Noel and, with Mitchell Robinson, if he was healthy, that'd be phenomenal with them, but obviously he's not playing. But I still think the Sixers are going to fare really well. I do think this is going to be a 5-game series again. The Sixers will win. I kind of want to say a 6-game, but I kind of feel like the Knicks are going to be a little drained by the way Tom Thibodeau has been playing them this year, unfortunately. They've been playing them a lot, and it's really going to catch up to them, in my opinion. Right now, it's just kind of hard to overall match up with the Sixers' size. They have a lot of size in this team, and you got like Simmons, who you can't really match him with really nobody right now. RJ Barrett's probably going to be on him or something like that, but I think the Sixers are also more of a experienced team, as this Knicks team is a lot of young guys who are, gritty and are looking to make the playoffs for the first time right now. And now we got a big series, Nets versus Bucks. This is another series where you can go really either way, in my opinion, on this one. I think the Bucks with Giannis can really beat this Nets team, and I think the Nets I think they're going to be coming up a quick series. I think they're going to be building a lot more chemistry with that team, and hopefully Steve Nash can get more used to coaching, Harden, Kyrie, and KD as a whole. Personally, in this series, I'm going to be going Nets in 7. I just can't fathom, this team losing this early in the playoffs. I definitely understand the argument for them losing this early, and quite frankly, I could see it happening as a very possible outcome because a team this bad defensively like the Nets are, these teams don't make it that far in the playoffs, but I just can't bet against a lineup with Kyrie, KD, and Harden this early in the playoffs. And now we have a Western Conference Finals matchup, rematchup from last year, Nuggets versus Lakers. Jamal Murray is going to be out, unfortunately, because he was so dominant in that last series against the Lakers. It was outstanding how well he was playing in the bubble last year. Personally, I got the Lakers winning in 6 here. I think LeBron's injury is going to affect him still a little bit in this series, and that's why I have him in 6. And personally, I just think this Nuggets team is on an absolute roll. I think it'll be pretty clear that the Lakers are going to win the series throughout the whole thing, but I think it's going to be coming down to the end of the wire, kind of with the 6-game series. But I got Lakers in 6 here. I can't see LeBron losing to this Nuggets team with Jamal Murray out especially. Now we got Jazz versus Clippers. The Clippers just seemingly tanked for this spot. I think it was just stupid what they did. And I see a lot of analysis are going off of them too, which is rightfully so. But in this series, I do the Clippers winning in 7 games. I think Donovan Mitchell's going to have a fantastic series here. But the Clippers with Kawhi, I just think they'll reach the Western Conference Finals. I really like their offensive talent this year, and I think PG-13 is just kind of a much better playoffs this year than last year. I just can't expect that from him again. I think the Clippers team as a whole is a lot better formed. I think their coaching is a lot better. I just don't think Doc Rivers was the coach for them last year. I mean, if you blow a 3-1 lead against the Nuggets, it's kind of evident that the coaching was probably a problem too, even though I think the personal staff of the players was pretty big last year, especially with Paul George. But I just don't think he can play much worse than last year. But hey, this is our series I could see going both ways. And now we are at the Eastern Conference Championship, the series a lot of people in the East have been waiting on. Right off the bat, you can tell nobody on the Nets is really going to be able to guard Embiid. And if you're the Sixers, you can't really guard KD either, so it's going to be one of those types of series. If the Sixers are smart, they're going to use Matisse Thybulle a lot more in this series, hopefully starting him, because then you can try to limit 2 of their stars, putting a guy like Thybulle probably on Harden, and then having a guy like Simmons on a guy like KD, and then Embiid's controlling the paint, but you still have a guy like Kyrie Irving wide open, and that's why I think the Nets will win this series in 6 games. It's another series where you could argue the defense of the Nets is just absolutely horrendous. But I mean, a fully healthy Nets, the defense definitely isn't as bad as what it looks like when it's ranked. I think it's pretty bad still, and I don't think you can really bring home multiple championships with how bad this defense is. And now we got the series a lot of people were waiting for last year, Clippers versus Lakers. The Clippers blew a 3-1 lead last year to the Nuggets. Personally, for this series, I will be going Lakers in 6. I really love the defense that the Lakers have going for them, and I think it's like the most capable thing of shutting down this hot Clippers team from deep especially. Even without, Davis and LeBron, it says a lot that this team stayed number 1 defensively, and now at this point, LeBron is probably going to be a lot healthier than before unless he re-injures it in the playoffs or something like that. And I also expect Anthony Davis to hit more of a rhythm because as time has been going on for AD, he's getting back to his old self off that injury, which was a pretty unfortunate injury that kept him out for a lot of the season. But I got the Clippers in 6. I got the Lakers in 6 here. I don't think it's going to be as intense of a series as we are expecting, but I think it's going to be, nonetheless, a really good one still. And then in the NBA Finals, we have the Nets versus the Lakers. Superstars versus superstars. This is going to be the finals to watch. Let's preview some lineups quick. With the Nets, you got Kyrie, Harden, Harris, KD, and potentially Griffin. I don't really know what they're going to go with at the 5. And Lakers, you got Schroeder. I don't really know how to say the dude's last name, unfortunately. Pope, LeBron, Davis, Drummond, and a pretty deep bench for that Lakers team. I do think both teams have pretty underrated benches, but I got to give that, point to the Lakers because I think their bench is better. I think LeBron will guard KD, and I think LeBron's going to win that matchup most of the time, especially when he's got the ball in his hands, which leads me to my prediction. I think the Lakers are taking this in 7. Their defense is just horrendous. The worst team, I believe, in the modern era that's won a championship, the worst defensive rating team was, I believe, the Mavericks in 2011 with the 11th ranked defense, and now the Nets. I can scroll back up here in my notes. I believe they were like 20-something. Yeah, number 22nd. So it's just, I don't think they're going to be able to handle the Lakers too much. I think the Lakers are the perfect team to shut down this number 1 defense that the Nets has. So, I understand why a lot of people wouldn't take the Nets to the finals because of that. Personally, I love their superstar talent, but when you come against a team like the Lakers with their defense, it's kind of hard to stop by. And I just feel like the Lakers match up a lot better than most teams against this, Nets team. That's why I also had the Nets moving on to the finals, just plus their star talent. I can't stop mentioning their star talent because it's that special. But hey, thank you guys for listening to this video. Hopefully my predictions do somewhat decent. Hey, I'm gonna get some wrong. I know that. It's just, part of the process. I already know I'm probably gonna get like probably not half of them wrong, but I'm definitely gonna get a few series wrong at least, and I'm probably not gonna be completely accurate on my finals prediction because who really is, honestly? That's it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna be doing a finals prediction video once those teams are, out. I'll see you guys next one. Peace.